So now let's take a look at another type of join, and as we mentioned previously in the last video and the one before, joins are how we combine tables um, in a relational database. So they're usually matched on a foreign key, and we talked about the cross join and the inner join in the last two videos, but now we're going to focus a little more on the outer join. The outer join is a join that returns qualifying rows from one table and then all the rows from the other table. If the non-matching, if there are non-matching rows, then it would pad the results with null values. So again, outer joins return the qualifying rows from one table and all of the rows from the other table, padding non-matching results with nulls. So there are three varieties. The first variety is the left outer join. So in this diagram, the Venn diagram, we see that all rows from the left table are included regardless of whether they match on the right side. The second one is a right outer join, and all of the rows from the right table in the join statement are included regardless of whether they match on the left side. And finally, we have a full outer join where all rows from both tables in the join statement are included regardless of whether there's a match, and it pads both sides with null. So let's take a look again at the inner join, because this is a good starting place here. If we have a foreign key between two tables, customer and sale, where the sale is pointing to the customer, and we do an inner join, then it would only return those that have a match. Notice that Paula Brown and James Smith do not have any sales in the database. And here was an example of our inner join where we have the employee and it's related to the department based on the department ID. And you notice that here there are only the matching items. So where the employee ID, and if we look at the query, we're grabbing the department ID from the department table. So this department 100 and this department 110 were listed in that employee table and matched to the department table. So now let's take a look at an example of a left outer join. So we have two tables again, A and B, and we want to apply that same condition that we do with an inner join to this type of join. And let's see what happens. So if we have a left outer join and table A is employees and table B is departments, then we list all records from table A, which is the employees table. So regardless of whether there's a match or not, we want to list all of those records. So notice if we were to expand this, we would have the 107 employees that exist in that table listed. Now, when you do a left outer join, table B, it says, that's what I want to match to if I can. So I'm trying to match table A to table B. And if there's a match, great. I'm going to display the records that are tied to that match. But if there's not a match in table B, I'm not going to list anything from table B, and I will instead pad with nulls. So in certain cases, we want to only show things from table A and exclude things from table B completely. So if we want to do that, this is called an excluding outer join, or a left outer excluding join. And what you do in a case like that is you simply add a where clause. and you say where the department ID is null. The idea is you return all items from table A that do not match to table B, and this is the case there. And sometimes that's a very useful query for us to do. And we notice that only the ones with nulls are returned. So we also have the right outer join. The right outer join, again, table A and table B. We want to include records from table B, and if they match, great, we're going to display that match. If they don't match, then that's okay too. We'll just display nulls instead of actual values. So here's an example. The only thing we changed in this query that's kind of hidden behind this is we changed inner join to, left outer join to right outer join. That's the only thing that's different between these two queries. Now we notice that there are several departments that do not have employees tied to them. So now it displays everything from table B, the departments table, and it pads table A, the employees table, with null values where they do not match. So we see the nulls here. We can also do a right outer excluding join where we return all the items from table B that do not match to table A by adding that where clause again, where the department ID from table A, the foreign key is null. And we want only to display the things from table B that do not match in table A. So we know that Treasury, Corporate Tax, Control and Credit, and Shareholder Services do not have employees in them. Now, finally, let's look at the full outer join. A full outer join says we want all rows from both tables. We want all rows from both tables. And if we do this, then what we should see is a combination of everything from table A that matches and doesn't match to table B, and everything from table B that matches to table A and doesn't match to table A. So we see both sides of that in the same result set. So we have the situation where we had with the left outer join and with the right outer join, but they're union together, they're combined together. So in this case we have the grant, the left outer join result, grant, that match to nulls, and we have the Treasury, Corporate Tax, Control and Credit, and Shareholder Services that did not match in the right outer join. But the full outer join gives us the opportunity to do that in both queries, or in a single query, both result sets in a single query. You can also do an excluding full outer join where you do not include the things that match. And again, sometimes that is useful. And notice the way you would do that is to enter where the employee ID is null or the department ID is null, either one of those situations. Typically, you would use a primary key from each of the tables that you're full outer joining together to exclude that inner part. So we see that we have the grant person and we have the Treasury, Corporate Tax, Control and Credit, and Shareholder Services listed, but nothing else. You can also do an outer self join, and here table A and B are the same table. But notice that in this case, because Stephen King is the president of the company, he does not have a manager. So in that particular case, the manager for Stephen King would be null. And if you wanted a list of all employees in this listing, then you would have to do a left outer join to ensure that Stephen King is an employee that is listed in the listing. Because again, he has no manager, so that should show up there as null.